Welcome to Gillitts Station and to what is now going to be called Mist at Gillitts. Let's go inside and I'll show you a little bit about what used to be when it was a station. Follow me. This is a new doorway that we're going through that has been added for the restaurant. This used to be the third-class ticket counter, and here, around the corner, was the first and second-class ticket counter. Behind and below the counter, behind the chair, was a brick which is out of place because that brick used to be where the post box was for posting your letters, when this acted as a post office in the early days. There used to be a door here, which was where parcels were collected or delivered. Look at the beautiful brickwork, and you will see it over the window. The beautiful brickwork that master bricklayers did. We don't see that type of brickwork anymore. So it has been incorporated into the restaurant. It used to have glass windows so they could see the trains arriving from Durban or coming from Pietermaritzburg. The levers were for the points and they were for the signals. This room in here used to be the general office. So the staff, the station master had his office at the back there, and the other staff would work in there. The batteries were kept here for the lights on the station and the replacement batteries for the train if they needed them. This door was the door that the passengers used to come in from the general waiting room. So they would come in from the road, they would come through here onto the platform, go and buy their tickets over there. Here, we're coming through to what used to be the ladies' waiting room. It was the only room in the station that had its own toilets. So the ladies would be able to use this room by themselves with no gentlemen. No men were allowed in here. This was for the ladies. It had its own fireplace, which you can see the original fireplace here, except unfortunately there's no grate. That room was where the basins were and the toilets. And the ladies had their toilets here. The gentlemen sadly had to go outside to where the parking area is. They used to have a wooden iron building with some toilets for the gentlemen. And you look at the old rail around. The ceiling is new and it's very attractive. It used to be a very plain ceiling in the original station. The windows have all been refurbished. They were sash windows. They still are sash windows and they work beautifully. The builder, PDK Builders, did a fantastic job of the renovation. The gallows brackets that hold up the old roof of the veranda and the new walls that have been put around for the restaurant. If you follow me here, you will see all the old windows with the brickwork. But here, when the post office left the building, when they were here, they used to have letter boxes, PO boxes for the residents. They removed the blocks, and before Ma'afa was involved, they put blocks in to close up the void. Fortunately, Nippo listened to me, and he's had it refurbished and put back to bricks. But it has now been repaired with the white band rail around the building. Thank you. I hope you enjoy your visit to Mist at Gillitts. My name's Adrian Rowe. I've had an interest in the history of this area for the past 35 years. I've lived in Cluj, close to the station, since 1979, for 47 years. And it has been a hobby of mine researching the history of the area, and particularly the railway line. The station was built originally as a wooden iron building and was the first station from Pinetown on its way up to Bothas Hill. It was opened as a wooden iron building in March 1879 and was an important place because this is where the steam engines used to pick up water and coal if it was necessary. Without water, you had no steam for the trains to run. When the station was first opened, the area around it was farmland. So it served the farming community. They could load their cattle here to send it to market. Their young calves would come on the train and be offloaded at the station. It was a crossing point for the trains coming from the north or coming from the south. So one train would stop while the other train passed by. Gillitts Station was the first station past Pinetown, and the next station up the line was at Bothas Hill. It served a community of farmers in the area. At that stage, there were no other houses, but over time, the station became a focal point for the village of Gillitts, and new houses were built and new people would move into the area. The station only operated from 1879 until 1932, when it closed as a manned station. So therefore, the trains would either go straight through or they would stop to offload passengers or pick up passengers. It was still used for the collection of animals and dropping off of animals. It was used during the Anglo-Boer War to a great extent because close by was a dam, and the horses that had been serving on the battlefront would be offloaded at the siding adjacent to the station, and they would be walked down to the dam and where the campsite was for rehabilitation purposes. Quite a number of trains of interest passed through here. The Princess Christian Hospital train, which brought wounded soldiers and wounded personnel through to the hospital at Pinetown, and also Winston Churchill, who was a well-known politician in England, came through here on the train as he was going to the Anglo-Boer War to report about the war conditions. It's very important in our country, or in any country in the world, to preserve your old buildings, because some of them have heritage value. They were beautifully built by proper craftsmen, not like we have today, where we have a concrete jungle of straight walls and uninteresting buildings. This building was beautifully built, and it's important to perpetuate that history of those buildings. We will later talk about some of the special features of the station, such as the gallows brackets which held up the veranda roof and the brickwork around the windows. You can see above the windows. Not like today, everything is straight. There's no beautiful curves on modern buildings. For me, having not been alive when the station was built, there were certain things that I knew about, but I wasn't aware of where they were. For instance, the siding alongside the station, that was unearthed in the excavations for the parking lot. So that area where goods were loaded or offloaded, that I became aware of. I also discovered that where the counter is next to me, that used to be where the lever frame was for the points and for the signals for the station. There was a passageway underneath the building that was used for the cables and for the communication cables. So that was interesting to see that. Unfortunately, with the present building, that's had to be covered over, and it was no longer needed. I first met Nippo in 2021 when he had signed a lease with Transnet Freight or Transnet Properties for the use of the station building as a restaurant. Unfortunately, he wasn't made aware by the owner of the property that there are certain legal requirements relating to alterations. And he started work, and I became the ogre who contacted Amarfa and said, somebody is working on the building without permission. Has that permission been granted? At that stage, a lady from Amarfa came here and she stopped the work. There was some demolition done of new structures that had been added to the building more recently by the post office, and some of the doors and windows had been blocked up. But most of the building at that stage was derelict and in very poor condition. Up to 2021, it was a problem for the neighbors living in the area. After initially meeting Nimpo, Martha became quite involved, and they requested that documentation be completed by the various interested parties, one of whom I represented. It was Highway Heritage Society, and another which I represented was Mgeni Steam Railway and the Railway History Society, of which I was chair. And we had no objections because we were concerned that the building was being used by elements that we would prefer not to have had living in our community. That approval was accepted by Martha, and in due course, the go-ahead was given for the development of the building. I was confident that Nippo listened to what my suggestions had been. I was able to supply him with a floor plan of the original building, which he used, and he employed a builder who had an interest in the heritage of the building. And that made us much happier that the renovations were going to be done sympathetically for the building. For the last 4 years, it has been very pleasing to see Gillitts Station returning to what it used to look like over many, many years. So I would say that would be the major reward. The local community has watched the progress that has been happening over the last 4 or 5 years and is looking forward to the restaurant opening and will be very happy to see how sympathetically the renovation has been done. Even though the footprint has been expanded, it has been done so that the old station building is still visible behind the glass walls. Restoration of this building is an asset to the local community. It's been done so that once trains run on the track again, it will be part of the heritage of the area. It's lovely that the building has been retained in its original form predominantly. And the local residents will be particularly happy that it's been done for the benefit of the community, and it will be supported by members of the community. I have absolutely no doubt. When I first saw the name, I wasn't surprised because it's very apt and describes the environment in which we live. At certain times of the year, the area is shrouded in mist, and it slowly clears in the early morning as the sun starts to rise. So it's a very suitable name for the old station. Even though I will always know it as Gillitts Station, it will now become Mr. Gillitts. They would say, thank you for bringing me back to what I was like 100 years ago, for protecting me, keeping me with a dry roof over my head, and for making me look beautiful again.